Thank you to the organizing team for this event. I'm honored to be a part of it. In the next 20 minutes, I will talk about the platformization happening in the translation industry, which is a topic that my dissertation is exploring. Although considerable research has been devoted to non-professional crowdsourcing in recent years, rather less attention has been paid to profit-oriented approaches targeted at professional translators, as is the case with translation platforms. Not only in the translation industry has the emergence of digital phenomena like Amazon, Google, Facebook represented the answer of capitalism to a number of economic uncertainties and crises, ultimately establishing a digital form of capitalism. After explaining the underlying concepts, I will trace some technological advances in the translation industry, the toolbox of platforms, so to speak, to give you a general idea of which technologies are accelerating the development of cloud marketplaces. The main part will consist of an analysis of the company translated.com. Using this platform as an example, I will show how platformization impacts the translation industry in terms of job precarity, remuneration, and exploitation, but also in terms of data extraction and professional status. The dot-com boom of the 1990s accelerated the development of internet companies, and even after its bust, its effects are still visible. The seemingly infinite possibilities of the internet still prevailing in people's minds, and the infrastructure is still there to use for platforms in all industries. So what characterizes a digital platform? According to Van Dijk, platforms are mediators rather than intermediaries, as they take on a role that goes beyond merely facilitating exchange. They govern and shape interactions. They essentially control the exchanges on a cloud marketplace. Another key aspect is that these digital markets are two-sided or multi-sided, meaning there are multiple sides that the platform in its role as mediator needs support. Google Search, for example, manages advertisers on one side and consumers on the other side. In cloud marketplaces, the labor is oftentimes outsourced and processes are automated with the help of technology. Inherently, they also drift towards monopolization, which is related to two aspects: network effects and the collection of vast amounts of data. The market position is influenced by the amount of users and complementers on the platform. The more people using the platform, the more relevant it becomes in an upward spiral. Take Uber as an example. More drivers mean greater availability of cars and shorter waiting times, which attracts more customers. At the same time, more customers attract more drivers because there will be more job opportunities. On top of that, data infrastructures are used to gather knowledge and improve the services. Improved services attract new users and complementers who in turn provide more data to improve the services. Cernicek also identifies a type of platform that he names lean platform. Their business model is based on outsourcing of labor via the internet, thereby keeping costs low. The same strategy the translation platforms are employing. For over 20 years now, translation platforms have been emerging and agencies have been transforming into platforms or taking on platform-like qualities. Simply put, this process is called platformization. According to Paul et al., platformization is the penetration of infrastructures, economic processes, and governmental frameworks of platforms in different economic sectors and spheres of life. They identify three key aspects of platformization: data infrastructures, which concern the way platforms are built to generate and collect data; market organization, which refers to the two-sided or multi-sidedness of platforms; and governance, which involves platform policies and structures to assert control over the interaction between users. In the following analysis, I will use these three aspects to illustrate how translated.com operates as a platform within digital capitalism. As mentioned before, digital capitalism developed as a reaction to a number of economic crises. As capitalism continuously looks for new revenue streams, it has taken advantage of the easily accessible and global internet through data collection. Pace describes it as a collection of processes, sites, and moments in which digital technology mediates the structural tendencies of capitalism. Exemplary of digital capitalism is the so-called gig work, which can be found in Marx's work as piece wage, and which he describes as the form of wage most appropriate to the capitalist mode of production. It follows two principles. pay-as-you-go wage, which means that payment is for every individual task and just for the actual time spent on the task, and just-in-time availability, which ensures fast response time by the workers and is, for example, achieved through a global network of workers. For an LSP, there are several possible tools online to leverage. Project management processes can be automated with the use of algorithms. Translation memories can be shared in the cloud, or the whole translation process can take place in the cloud, even collaboratively. There's also the use of statistical or neural machine translation and an automated Q&A check. Translation platforms try to use a combination of these to keep costs at a minimum, quality at a maximum, and still achieve fast turnaround times. There are several advantages for platforms and agencies alike resulting from technology and especially the use of paid crowdsourcing. I use agencies here because the tools are not exclusively used on platforms, although platforms can still be distinguished by an even greater use of automated processes. Nevertheless, as Garcia has already found, the line between agency and platform in the translation industry is blurred. A substantial amount of platforms is employing a form of crowdsourcing, whereby the task is outsourced to a pool of paid professional translators to achieve these advantages. Now, the term professional translator is used ambiguously. It can be associated with expertise or simply refer to translators being paid for a task and making a living. For the purpose of this talk, let us assume the latter is the case. For example, translated.com doesn't list any specific requirements for their translators to register on the platform. So no special expertise or knowledge can be deducted at this point, even though a professional translation is advertised on their website. Looking at the triple constraints on the translation process, which are time, money, and quality, we can see that paid professional crowdsourcing already promises to bring advantages to two sides. Translator fees can be controlled, 24/7 service due to the global network of translators, and the split up of large volumes and collaborative work contribute to faster turnaround times. All of this also allows for maximizing profit and the amount of data collected from machine learning. The only missing link in this equation is the translation quality. That is where Bauke's fit-for-purpose translation comes in and explains the sometimes 2 to 3 quality tiers that are offered on translation platforms. Thus, translation platforms seem to have found a way to get ahead on all 3 constraints and quickly adapt to customer needs. Here's an example from translated.com. The quality purposes range from economy, which is lightly post-edited machine translation, to premium, which includes a second translator to revise the text. Thus, the burden to choose the appropriate translation quality falls on the customer, who is oftentimes not aware of the differences and their impact. Before we continue with translated.com, here are other examples of translation platforms. If we take a closer look at NIMZI's top 100 largest language service providers, we get an idea of the role that translation platforms play. For example, Tolingo and translated.com are on the list. Django has been bought by Lionbridge, which is number 2. Textmaster and 1 Hour Translation have also been bought by big companies from NIMZI's list in the last few years. This shows that there is an increasing interest in the technological advances and convenience that translation platforms offer. For the purpose of this talk, I have analyzed the website and related services of translated.com. The company was founded in 1999 as an online language service provider. According to the website, they have over 206,000 international customers and over 260,000 vetted translators. Besides document translation in a wide range of fields, they also offer subtitling and localization services. Freelancers don't need to fulfill any requirements when registering on the site. Their translation expertise is evaluated after the first jobs are done. This means the entry is relatively easy for new translators or bilinguals that want to translate. A large pool of translators also brings advantages, such as fast response times, a wider range of offered services, using translators that continuously score high in terms of quality, and maybe the most important, a large pool signals an active platform able to meet the customer's needs. As explained before, this potentially attracts more customers and results in network effects. A central task still is the quality evaluation, or letting the customer choose a fit-for-purpose quality. And finally, we have Translated Labs. Translated Labs is the research branch of Translated.com, and it offers open source apps as well as the source code to the CAT tool. It is targeted at developers and internet users turned developers. The tools that I will mention in the analysis have been developed here. Now I will use the three aspects from before, data infrastructure, market organization, and governance, to analyze the platform Translated.com. First, Translated.com can collect the data through the main services on the website, as well as through the free CAT tool, MateCat, their translation memory sharing platform, MyMemory, and TAV. TAV is their scheduling software that translators use to signal their availability. Translated.com can then use the data to improve the following services. Besides their own translation services, MateCat and MyMemory, they can also feed the data into their machine translation software, ModernMT. T-Rank is the algorithm they use to score and rank the translators to find a suited match for each translation project. I will come back to this in more detail later. Now, I want to briefly focus on MateCat and MyMemory. As you can see in their terms and conditions, it says, the contributions to the archive, whether they are public data or private data, are collected, processed, and used by Translated to create statistics, set up new services, and improve existing ones. This means that even data sets from translation memories that are marked as private are collected and used. Furthermore, MyMemory crawls the web for additional usable segments. Because these services are for free and with an emphasis on collaboration and community, it gives us a false sense of sharing when, in fact, Translated.com uses the data in the spirit of digital capitalism to improve their own fee-based translation service. In cooperation with Taos, they have also set up a marketplace to sell language data to improve machine translation. In terms of market organization, Translated.com and its related services are a multi-sided market that brings together companies and translators and internet users. They offer some of their services for free, while others, like crowdsourcing, for example, are fee-based. Translated.com exerts control over their freelancers mostly through T-Rank. It's a tool they use to choose the best suited translators for a job. The translator score is based on metrics such as performance, availability, and quality, as determined by revisers and project managers. However, the details of the algorithms are not revealed on their website, thus leaving translators in the dark about how to improve their score. The company emphasizes that choosing the ideal translation rate is what translators should be focusing on. Although the platform stresses the fact that their freelancers can set their own rates, they give out recommendations per language pair and strongly suggest to lower the rate if there is not a sufficient workload. So what are the implications of a crowdsourcing platform such as Translated.com, and what possible consequences arise? The website promotes the benefits of self-employment, freedom to choose rates and availability, but stays vague on how and if this reflects negatively on the T-Rank score. So there is clearly an amount of control through the ranking that not only depends on the quality of the work. This leads to increased pressure on the translators. Moreover, Translated.com exercises power through knowledge, which they accumulate through data, ever-increasing access to more activities and cross-subsidization, and control over the rules of the platform. The advantage over traditional agencies is the rapid scalability once the infrastructure has been set up, because it's cheap to maintain and to expand. And there is little to no need to rent more office spaces. Translated.com as a platform puts a lot of emphasis on the technology that improves their production process. And with a focus on translator selection, the actual translation work seems insignificant and takes on a secondary role in the description of the production process. Promotes a shift away from the human and towards the technology that supports human production. What this shift also does is create an image of translation as something fast and easy, readily available, low effort, which reflects negatively on the profession. Translated.com does not earn money with the software they develop, but by making it free of charge, can reach a wider audience for data collection. They foster a community outside their freelance translator pool to collect and commodify additional data. Zwischenberger has already exposed the exploitation and crowdsourcing initiatives that are for-profit oriented companies, such as Facebook and Twitter. In her arguments, she points to the necessity to consider possible consequences for professional translators whose remuneration and status, for example, is negatively impacted. Translated.com is trying, through their free of charge tools, to expand their community beyond their own paid freelancers. So not only are their actions also possibly affecting other professional translators in terms of remuneration and status, because of how they control interactions and prices on their crowdsourcing platform, they are actively promoting their service in the guise of community sharing to collect more data and improve their own tools. Now, to put this into perspective, let us take a look at job precarity as found by the European Language Industry Survey in 2020. Although the majority of respondents are operating in Europe, the study can still give us an idea of the translation profession as viewed by professionals. Plus, Translated.com is an Italian-owned company, so looking at the European language service providers and freelancers can offer us some insights. 40% of freelancers reported not earning enough from translation interpreting and needing an additional source of income. Unstable workflows contribute to this precarity. Work-life balance is an issue, but just over 50% reported good work-life balance. With platforms offering their service 24/7, downward pressure on prices, tight deadlines, and being afraid of negative effects on the ranking, this is unlikely to get better. One key takeaway, therefore, is the need to address precarity in the profession. It is likely that platforms will gain in popularity or at least stay around and add to this precarity. The website Django, for example, advises their translators that working for them is meant as a side job and will not provide a living wage. To conclude, I have tried to show in this talk how several aspects of platforms are related to digital capitalism, such as monopolization tendencies, datafication, and the monetization of data. Furthermore, it goes to show that even acts that can be considered sharing because services are freely given and evoke a sense of community fall under the influence of digital capitalism, as exemplified by MateCat and MyMemory. Although users share their translation memories without charging a fee, and they also gain access to the translation memories from other translators, it is ultimately owned by a profit-oriented company that reserves the rights to the collected data. In terms of impact on the translation industry, it is important to note that gig work and outsourcing are already well-established practices in translation. As I've mentioned before, the line between agency and platform is blurred, and it is likely that it will get increasingly blurred and interchangeable as agencies incorporate new technologies to automate processes and improve their services to maximize profits. Translation agencies should not, however, just yet be regarded as the same as a translation platform. As exemplified by Translated.com, platforms have control over an immense flow of data, which transforms into knowledge and dominance. The possible price control and dumping through a ranking system is a serious concern as well. On top of that, the focus on technological advances and the image of the faceless crowd might lead to loss of status due to translate invisibility. This brings us to the end of the talk and also shows a need for further research into the opinions and experiences of translators who have worked for platforms as well as the discourse around platforms to adequately judge the impact they have on translators' livelihoods. Thank you for your attention.